Now today's video is very much going to be a two-part video. It's going to be my back workout, but also it's going to be how I incorporate archery with it and how I use it to try to strengthen up my build for a bow. So to begin, when shooting a heavy bow, it's really not necessarily about the raw strength that you have. It's a combination of strength and form. That's gonna make the biggest difference. One of my lighter bows, this is 135 pounds. When I'm doing gym workouts and things like that, the bow is always my why. And I feel like it's always good to have a why as to why you're working out. So the reason I bring up the why is because I feel like there's a lot of really good videos out there from people who are like professional fitness guys or whatever, tell you how to build a muscular, big or strong back. But this is gonna be more what I do in order to try to help strength with the bow. If I'm doing my back day, it's very simple. All I do is just like the pull downs, the seated row things, and then whatever machines are open. I don't really care, I just do what I do. But with this, there's a few things I do daily in order to try to help get stronger for the bow. And I want to go over those with you. I don't know if that helps with muscular development in the back, but I definitely feel like it helps with the bow. Is there a reason for it? No. I mean, the chances of getting attacked by a French knight or a Genoese crossbowman is near zero, but it's never zero. So the big thing is when I'm working out, what muscles do I use most with the bow that I want to strengthen? So when I'm pulling back the bow, it's not so much the arm. A lot of people think that it's the bicep that's doing all the work, but in reality it's the back. And when you read a lot of the old texts, they talk about laying into the bow. Whenever I do these activities or training at home, I wear a sleeve on my left elbow because I feel like when I'm trying to hold the bow out there, that takes the brunt of it and it just fatigues quickly, so I want to keep it safe. Next, I got a few things here that I think are super useful. First, I have bike tires. So bike tires are great if you don't have a bow trainer, because there's a lot of different motions you can do with them to kind of replicate the movement of a bow and ways you can kind of build that resistance strength. Because whenever you're doing any sort of weightlifting, it's like a quicker type movement back. You can go slow and controlled, but it doesn't necessarily have the same steady state tension as a bow does. So these are gonna be really useful here, just kind of replicating movements that you would do with a war bow. And then for the bike tire here, you can have it single stranded, or you can double it up. And I like to do a lot of a variety of motions with it to stabilize the back and shoulder muscles, because I feel like those go under the most immense amount of pressure. So you can stretch it out long ways, just pull it across and open it up, just kind of like accordion, I guess. You can go side, side, up and down, side and side here. You can have one arm steady and pull back with the other arm and vice versa. And I feel like these are things that are good because I do them dual-sided. That kind of helps without getting that big muscle asymmetry, because a lot of people ask about the muscle asymmetry. You know, do you have any sort of big developments on one side but not the other? I feel like doing these consistently helps with that. Scale of difficulty, the 135 is on the lower end for me, but the 155 here, which is getting a little heavier, you can see there's a bit more of effort that I put into it when I'm pulling that back. So that's definitely a little more difficult and strenuous on the body. So I want to identify which parts of me struggle when I'm doing that draw. Now, I know I've talked about this quite a bit a few times, and you can read about it, but one of the interesting things historically about archers, English archers in particular, is you could actually tell who was an archer by their skeletal remains. So the English archers would actually have deformations in their body. They'd have a longer left arm, they'd have more bone mass on a particular side, and they'd literally be hunchbacks. So I don't want to necessarily do that. My goal in life isn't to be a hunchback. So I want to be try to balance that out with weights. And weights are the best way that I do that, because there's quite a few people who've asked if I can shoot a heavy bow with the other side. And just to give you an example of what that looks like, if I try to draw the bow with the other side of my body, let's say I try to pull it back with my left arm, that's something I certainly cannot do at all. I'm not even close to it. So it just feels so weird. But if I'm here and I try to draw it back, I can get a little bit of distance, but nowhere near that full draw. So what areas need the most work and what exercises work the best? Even if I'm not going to be shooting a bow, I always try to do some sort of motion or activity with a bow a couple times a day at least. I take an arrow here. This is one of the older ones. It's a 33-inch arrow, so I know exactly what that length is. And what I do is I start off and I'll get a 130-pound bow. And the reason I like to have the arrow on it is because you can get really strong ripping something back, but if you don't have the ability to kind of control the arrow as you pull back and settle it in, and you're just working on pulling a bow, you're not going to get that stability to kind of draw up and bring it into place and loose, because it's not going to do a good job. So I like to have this just so I know exactly how far I'm drawing, but more so just to kind of work on that arrow control and make sure I'm getting it back smoothly. So I'll start off with 135 and do a couple pulls in there. Then once I'm feeling a little better from there, I'll go to the 155 and I'll get those in there. So again, the biggest thing when I'm doing these is I just want to really control as I'm bringing it down, and I want to make sure I'm working on keeping that arrow in a controlled state also, like I'm going to loose it, because I really want to get that locked in there well. I'll move up to the 165, so I just kind of go up in little gradients. Same type of thing, nice and controlled and slow, and make sure I bring it back very slowly as well. I want to keep it under tension the whole time, so I'm not just repping through it and ripping it back, but I want to work on that controlling. I want to work on controlling that draw and that arrow. And then, just because every now and then it's nice to look into the future and see what you can't do and how far you're getting, I get my 180-pound bow right here. This is just, oh my gosh, every single month, every single week, every single time I string it up, I think this will be the day that I get it. And it is just such a struggle. This is just the Everest bow here. I got this one from Fairbow and I just haven't been able to really utilize it yet, and it breaks my heart, but I'm working towards it. So it's that goal in mind. It's my why. It's like, I want to get this thing back. That is my driving force. And every day I string it up and realize I can't draw back, I realize there's more work to be done, and that's very motivating to me. Now it's actually starting to rain quite a bit, and I figured I could call it, but I'm already out here, and who doesn't like to play in some rain? So next we're going up to 165 pounds. And so this is where I really start to feel it more. And so I want to talk about a little bit more about where the activity feels like it comes from when I'm drawing that. I feel like most of it's going to come from the traps and the delts and the back, not so much the arms, and that left shoulder right in there. So coming up and pulling it down that way, it's not going to be so much the arms, it's really going to translate much more into the back. I customized this a little bit. I've added some additional bands to it. The manufacturing spec said it goes up to 100 pounds, but I kind of put it on a scale. It doesn't go that high, maybe 80. So I put another 50-pound band on here as well to try and help give a little additional resistance. This isn't a true one-to-one. If you can rip this thing back easily, it doesn't mean you're gonna rip back like a 130-pound bow. It's a great way to build that strength, and just do it when you're watching TV or in the house, so you don't have to worry about carrying a big piece of wood with you everywhere. And I do these daily as well. So this is just something I do. And this one I do both sides also. This is something I feel like, again, helps with that muscle asymmetry. So I can do that left side and the right side as well. Just like that.